Good morning, grade 7s. Hope you're well today. What I'm going to show you today is another kind of a compromise and improvising recipe to make soup. Further on in sector you'll see that there's pumpkin soup there, which I think has possibly a little bit of curry paste and coconut in it. I can't remember. But anyway, the method is the same for almost every kind of soup that you make. So what I'm going to do today is to make a pot of soup with what I have, which is what we all do. And the thing I wanted to show you first is this soup mix. Now, you don't have to have this, but I have, and it's called 12 blend soup mix, and it's because it has 12 ingredients in it. It has different types of beans, peas and lentils, which we call pulses. And when we get a little bit further on in the course and we start looking at the healthy diet pyramid, you will come to realise that those are high protein foods. They're the foods that vegetarians eat. People who don't eat meat get their protein from peas, beans and lentils. These ones are swollen. They have soaked in a bowl of water in the sink overnight, and that will just help the soup to cook a bit quicker. There's black beans in there, there's split peas, there's lentils, there's green peas, there's barley, all sorts of things. They're quite cheap. I can't remember the price, but it's something like $3 or $4 for the whole bag. And this is actually a lot. It's probably too much for what we need today, but I've soaked it anyway, and I'll freeze what I don't use and use it up another time. So, just a little bit of revision. I know on the very first lesson we sharpen knives, but if I'm going to cut lots of vegetables you need a sharp knife. So if you have a steel like this, use it at home. Sometimes you might have a stone, which remember is like an emery board with a rough side and a smooth side. You can do that, but if you're doing this, I'm lifting the knife just about 15 degrees, so that's flat, but 15 degrees up. Start at the end, far away from yourself, and the widest part of the knife, the heel, and bring it towards yourself on both sides. And do it over a table so that no one can walk into the end of the steel or the knife. Same thing with the bigger knife. It's easier for you to see it with a bigger one. Widest part at the end. If you start here, it's going to come down to this hand and cut you. So do it like this, hold this firmly, 15-degree angle on both sides of the knife. Now I've already done it, so I'm just showing you again. There you are. A bit like windscreen wipers on the car, how it goes. But don't start down here or it will come too close to your hand. If you don't have a knife, sharp knife, you've probably got sharp knives already at home anyway, don't worry about it. Having done that, wipe the knife, because there's nearly always a bit of black carbon comes off the steel. Just a little bit there. Alright, so we've done that. So the method for, now when you're making soup, it doesn't matter that everything's a perfect size and a perfect shape. It's all going to get cooked up in a bit of a mush anyway. So don't be too fussy about that. But I've got carrots here. This is a small zucchini that I was given from a friend's garden. I thought we might as well use it. These are leeks, which have been frozen. I cut them long ways, washed them under the cold tap, separated the leaves, made sure there was no leaks no soil in between, and then froze them. So they're handy just to use as they are today. Okay, something that some of you find quite difficult. To slice an onion properly and fairly quickly, start with the onion with the skin on. There's the top, the roots are the bottom. Slice through the onion with the skin on it, and then peel off the dry skin, usually just with your fingers. Don't pick up a knife and start peeling towards yourself, please. Never cut towards yourself. So here we are. There's that piece. I'm going to put the peelings in there. Same here. Top to bottom, it was cut from top to bottom. If you make a mistake and cut through the middle, that's fine, but it's easier to do it this way next time. There we are. So always try when you're cutting anything to get two flat surfaces. Put the root end of the knife pointing away from yourself and cut up to but not through the root. So up to the top but not through it. Remember, fingers behind, thumb behind your fingers, and then turn the onion round and slice this way. And that's how you get finely chopped onion. When you get a bit close to your fingers, let that piece fall forward and cut some more. There you are. Throw away the root part. So I'll show you once more. Root end pointing away from you. Cut up to the root, but not through it, because the root holds it together while you're slicing. Take off that little dry bit and then slice again. So don't be too fussy about it, but if you do it this way, then it is the most efficient way to slice an onion, and it gives you less time for the onion to really sting your eyes if you do it in the quickest, most efficient way. By quickest, I don't mean it's a race, because that way you'll cut yourself, but it's the most efficient way. And if onions are fairly fresh, their skin should be dry and papery like this, and quite easy to peel. So there we are. I probably should have done one before we started the film. So we'll just leave that to the side to save time. Same thing again. Whoops. Yep. Fingers tucked under, slice. So there's the onion ready to go. Now, I've already peeled the carrots, 2 of them. For the third one, use a potato peeler. Hold the carrot and always peel away from yourself. Always cut away from yourself, never towards. There you are. Carrots are really cheap just now, and there's lots of really good nutrients in carrots. Right, I'm going to slice up 2 at once, take the tops off. I've gone to my bigger knife now, because I'm trying to do 2 at once, but you don't need to do that. It doesn't really matter. Usually the rules are small food, small knife. If it's a big item, a bigger knife. But it depends what you're comfortable using. So you can just slice the carrots like that. Don't make them too chunky, otherwise they'll take too long to cook through. It's up to you how you do it. But this is probably the best way today. If you would like the carrots to be cubed and you're quite happy using the knives, what you can do is take a bigger knife, take the top and bottom off, cut the carrot long ways to get 2 flat surfaces for it to sit on again, just like we did with other things. Then cut it into sticks. Remember when we were doing the egg noodle rolls, we had thin carrot sticks, and I showed you that. So this is how you would do it just once more if you wanted cubed carrots in your soup. Lots of little long sticks, and then cut them that way. And then you've got diced carrot or cubed carrots. It doesn't need to be perfect, far from it. It's just going into soup. Here we are. This is the zucchini, funny shaped one from somebody's garden, but it's a good way to use it. Zucchini doesn't have a lot of flavour, but it will absorb other flavours that are in the soup, so I'm just doing that in cubes as well. Another way to use the zucchini would be in a stir fry. Cut into sticks, much like I've just done with the carrots. There we are. Alright, I've got some leftover spinach from yesterday, and I don't think it's going to last another day in the fridge, so I'm going to put that into the soup as well, because it has good nutrients and I don't want to waste anything. So you see what I'm doing here again? Cut it in slices. You can let the slices fall over and cut them separately that way if you like, whatever you find easier. But keep your eyes on what you're doing. And then chop. So you don't need to be weighing and measuring ingredients for soup at all. Soup is just a kind of an idea, and it's a method. It's not like when you're making cakes and biscuits and baking, and I'm always saying measure accurately. For soup, it doesn't make any difference to your soup whether you've got 2 carrots or 4 carrots. You use what you've got. Alright, here's a soup pot with a little bit of oil on the bottom, not very much, and this is the bit that a lot of people don't do, and this is what makes a huge difference to the flavour of any soup, and that is to sweat all the vegetables in oil. I don't think I've used that word before. Or you could use the word sauté, which we've talked a lot about sautéing, where you cook without colour. So you're cooking something slowly, but it's not to go brown. Alright, the oil in the pan has heated quite well. Remember, don't walk away and leave the oil in the pan. It can catch on fire. Don't use oil if you've let it smoke. Let it cool down until you use it. Or throw it out when it's cool and start again. Smoked oil doesn't taste very good, basically. Right, back on the heat. So, stir this round. There's a lot of the vegetables are in there. The zucchini, carrot and onion. Now I'm going to add the frozen sliced leek. Leek is a really good winter vegetable. Some of you probably have had leek and potato soup. It's a really lovely vegetable. It's really more of a winter vegetable. You might even grow them in your garden. It doesn't matter that these are frozen because the heat of the pan will melt this quickly. Now that smells quite good. It needs to cook quite a bit more before I add the liquid. So what I'm doing here again is sweating the vegetables to draw out the flavour and the colour. If I have a lot of carrots and particularly pumpkin, when I add the stock, that means the flavoured water, it will immediately change colour, and the flavour and the nutrients and the colours will come out of the vegetables into the stock if I've done this sweating process. So don't be impatient with this part. Most pots of soup, if you want it, are improved with a couple of rashers of bacon, finely chopped. I would put the bacon in at this point as well. I'm not going to with this, I don't have any anyway, but I'm not going to with this soup. But 2 rashers of bacon improves the flavour of nearly any soup at the beginning, whether it's a vegetable soup, pumpkin, Scotch broth, whatever. You may or may not know though, some soups are made with stock from bones. I've just got a vegetable stock concentrate here, which I made a long time ago with a Thermomix, but you don't need to have that. You can use stock cubes easily. Remember, stock cubes or stock powder are really salty, so don't overdo it. You can always add salt to a recipe, but once it's in there, you can't take it out. So don't overdo the salt in anything. You can adjust the seasoning near the end. Now there it is cooking. It's still, I've added a lot, and the frozen vegetables have brought the temperature down a little bit. So I'm going to turn the gas up a little bit more. There we are. I've also got 2 bay leaves. You don't have to have them, but I just happen to have them. I was given them from a friend's garden, and they have quite an unusual, really different sort of smell. They've been frozen, but it's fine to drop them into the pan. And then I think I'm going to add about 2/3 of let's just go the whole way. All these beans and lentils and peas in there, and that will thicken the soup, make it more filling, more nourishing, and really nice to eat. It also adds a lot of fibre to a dish. Every single bean has a little casing or skin on it, and when they cook they tend to boil out of their skins, and we eat that of course as it goes into the liquid of the soup. So it's quite high nutrient food really, because I've enriched it considerably by adding the legumes. That's the peas, beans and lentils. Potatoes will also thicken any soup that's a bit, if you wanted it thicker and it's not really as you wanted it, finely chop a potato through it and cook it and then blend it, and that's a good way of thickening a soup as well, is to use potatoes, but I don't need potatoes and beans in this one, so that's looking a bit better. Then I'm going to add probably a good 2 teaspoons, big teaspoons of this stock concentrate, because this is quite a big pot. Basically, that's the soup made. I'm going to add the liquid in a minute or two, then you put the lid on it and you leave it. And I'm going to add all the spinach near the end. I don't want the spinach to be boiled for an hour or so. It will tend to go, well, it will get an overcooked sort of a flavour and look. So I'll add the spinach near the end. Remember, don't add salt, just use your stock at the moment. So there we are. I hope you can see that properly. Quite a bit of colour there. You can add any fresh herbs, parsley or thyme or whatever you might have available. Even some fresh rosemary would be nice in this. So I'm always, when I'm making soup, I make a big pot, and then you can use it for several days, or you can freeze some of it. So I'm going to take it over to the tap and just put cold water in, straight from the tap. And it is cold water, not boiling from a kettle, because while the water heats up, well, it's really stock, while it heats up, it's going to draw the flavour and the colour with it out of the vegetables and into the stock. Now, do you see the colour of that already? That stock is quite green, partly from the stock concentrate, but also from all the vegetables that are in there. So that is how easy it is to make a decent pot of soup. Now once that's cooked, we'll come back to it much later. It will need about an hour at least with all those beans in it. But all you want to do with soup is get it up to the boil, and once it's boiling, turn it right down so that it just simmers. If you keep it boiling for an hour, those peas and beans will stick to the bottom and you'll boil away all the soup you've made and you won't have much left. So as soon as it's, maybe even leave the lid off actually, so that you can see when it comes up to the boil, and then turn it down to a simmer for about an hour. So same method with any vegetables really. The secret of good soup is sweating vegetables in a small amount of olive oil or bacon fat at the very beginning, and then add cold stock and stock powder and slowly bring it up to the boil, then turn it down and let it simmer. So that's healthy fast food. Now it's not fast to you because it's taking an hour to cook, but tomorrow it'll be fast food, and the day after you just put a bowl in the microwave or reheat it in a pan. And some of the very best restaurants even advertise their soup as yesterday's soup, because yesterday's soup tastes better than the soup that's made today. It develops, the flavour develops and deepens over a few days. So I'd love to see you making any kind of soup at all at home. You can do French onion soup. If you Google that, all you need is lots of chopped onions. Put them in some olive oil and butter and saute them for as long as possible, and then turn up the heat slightly till they start to go slightly brown and caramelised. And a teaspoon of sugar in with that helps the caramelising, and you then add your stock to that. So even if you've only got a bag of onions, you can actually make quite a decent soup from that. Once again, please photograph whatever you make at home and send it to me through Secta, or if you can't do that, do it through an email with a photograph from your phone. And remember, write about what you learned from it, how your family liked it, what their suggestions were for changing it. So I look forward to seeing your photographs, and thanks very much for listening. Bye just now.